Happiness is a direction, not a place. At its highest level, the purpose of teaching is not to teach, it is to inspire the desire for learning. Once a student's mind is set on fire, it will find a way to provide its own fuel.
If a small thing has the power to make you angry, does that not indicate something about your size? It's odd, and a little unsettling, to reflect upon the fact that English is the only major language in which I is capitalized. In many other languages U is capitalized and the I is lowercase. The commonest fallacy among women is that simply having children makes them a mother, which is as absurd as believing that having a piano makes one a musician.
What is much harder to handle is the sense that you have to live up to the mark someone else has set for you. The grades become too important. The competition too frantic. The fear of disappointing those who believe in you turns into an overwhelming nightmare. And it is desperately unfair to the boy. He cannot live his parents' life over again for them. He cannot make up for their own lacks, their own unfulfillments. He cannot carry their torch, only his own.
Much as a teacher may wince at the thought, he is also an entertainer, for unless he can hold his audience, he cannot really instruct or edify them.
The most worthwhile form of education is the kind that puts the educator inside you, as it were, so that the appetite for learning persists long after the external pressure for grades and degrees has vanished. Otherwise you are not educated, you are merely trained. 90% of what we believe has nothing to do with the process of thought, but comes instead from the four sources of family inheritance, individual temperament, national culture, and economic self-interest, and while we cannot wholly cast off these shackles, we should at least recognize their cramping and distorting influence upon the free process of thought.
Self-discipline without talent can often achieve astounding results, whereas talent without self-discipline inevitably dooms itself to failure.
It is a curious psychological fact that the man who seems to be egotistic is not suffering from too much ego, but from too little. When the ego is strong and well developed, there is no nagging need to impress others by money, by rudeness, or by any other show of false strength.
Isolation always perverts. When a man lives only among his own sort, he soon begins to believe that his sort are the best sort. This attitude breeds both the arrogance of the conservative and the bitterness of the radical. It's odd that the people who worry whether certain plays are morally offensive so rarely worry about the moral offensiveness of war, poverty, bigotry. Nobody can be so amusingly arrogant as a young man who has just discovered an old idea and thinks it is his own. But in terms of psychological time, most of us are still living in centuries past, stirred by ancient grudges, controlled by obsolete prejudices, driven by buried fears. Take away grievances from some people and you remove their reasons for living. Most of us are nourished by hope, but a considerable minority get psychic nutrition from their resentments, and would waste away purposelessly without them.